I'll put in the reference here on the Spanish one, and you'll see why here in just a second. So, just for fun, let's do my funny life verse, Acts 26:24, and then I do a search, and look, it did bring them both in. Now, so this is a question that I got from one of my Church Tech U members who's actually at a bilingual church. Now, there's a lot of those in the U.S., but she actually lives, she retired to Mexico from, I want to say it was Arizona, might have been California. She's got people in both places. And so during one of our Q&A sessions that we have, she said, Paul, I don't know what it is. We got a new computer, and now I have to search in Spanish for the Bible. It won't search in English. Well, we did a little digging, and it actually wasn't that her new computer had a thing for Spanish. It had to do with how she had stuff added. So let me show you what I mean. Here we are in ProPresenter, and if I click on Bible mode here, okay, you'll notice that I have the King James Version, and let me add another one. So I'm going to add, let's add one in Spanish. So that's a Spanish version. Okay. First off, I will need to tell it where to put the text. So let me make sure that I do that. Otherwise, it's going to get confused. So anytime you do that, make sure that it isn't selected none across the board for that, because that'll cause problems. But I'll put in the reference here on the Spanish one, and you'll see why here in just a second. So just for fun, let's do my funny life verse, Acts 26:24, and then I do a search, and look, it did bring them both in. Now, I need to tweak this because it's cropping off some. See, that's what that means. But everything's fine. But what if I wanted to do a search in Spanish? Well, let's do Mateo 3:16. Nothing. So let me show you how to solve that problem. If I change this to any other translation and then put the Spanish first, then notice it comes up. So let me tell you what's going on here. Whichever is the first translation right here is the one that the search box searches in. So, since the first one is in Spanish, the language it searches in is Spanish. Before, the first language was English, so it did a search for English. Notice that as soon as I changed this to English, then it did in fact translate it. So it is capable of doing that, but it's important that you know that that's a limitation. Now, let me show you a little something about that. So let's put the Spanish translation right here once again. And now this time I'm going to select none for this. So while the first one is English, it's not actually showing any English down here. And if I do that, then I can do a search for, let's see here, do you like these videos, but you'd really like to learn from me in person? Well, I've got some great news for you. I am traveling around the country and maybe even around the world training churches on how to use ProPresenter. So I've got a either a 1 or a 1.5 day class that you can attend For more details, head on over to TDM.fyi/events24, the top one right here, and register for the event nearest you. If there is no event that's near you, no problem. You can request one. So head on over to tdm.fyi/class request. That's this one down here. And you can say, hey, I'm interested in attending a class, or even I'm interested in hosting a class. Up to you which you prefer. In the last one, that is just information. It's not obligation, so don't hesitate to put your information in there, and I'll let you know when there's a class in your area, or we'll talk about what it takes to host a class. It's probably a lot less than you imagine that it is. So head over there, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Luke 5:3. I actually don't know what Luke 5:3 is, but does that, and if I were to click on this, this says, here, let me hide this. Okay, let's try that. Yeah, so Lucas 5:3. I don't speak Spanish, so I'm probably butchering it. Sorry about that. Um, but it does show you that while you did a search in English, it's showing you the Spanish. So if you have that situation where you you have that situation where you need to display a language that you do not speak, just make sure that you add two translations and don't bother to display the one. Now, the downside of doing this is if we click on options here, notice how the break on verse number, on new verse it's grayed out. That's because anytime you have two or more translations, it's going to break on each verse. And I have another tutorial on how to get around that problem, but I suppose what you could do is you could do the search, find it, and then then get rid of this one and change it to the other language, and it will translate it for you and display it. So that's the way around that. And notice as soon as I go into option, now I have the option to break on verse or don't. It's up to me at this point. So I guess that's a way around that issue, but I did want you aware that what is happening is the very first translation here is the one that it will search in. Um, when I'm clicking on the plus here or the minus, it's not adding in new translations. It's not removing old translations. It's just showing or hiding them from the search. So you're not delete. In this case, if I click this little minus button right here, it does not delete the conservative version. It's hiding it. It's still available to me. All of these translations are still available to me, but it's just hiding which translations it's set up to search through and show. So that's why that's an important thing to know, and it's important to know the order of these translations and how the search affects that. Also, this search would affect that as well. You know, if I did a search in English for, let's say, Lamb of God, but this was a Spanish translation. Well, I might be assuming something incorrectly. So, Lamb of God, nothing. But if I change this to that, notice it gives me some options. So it is the same with when you're searching for the content of the Bible. different phrases, etc., that this also searches in the first translation that you have listed, just as this, for the reference, searches in the first translation that you have listed. So that's an important thing to know in case you're dealing with multiple translations. Could be that you're a bilingual church. Another option is it could be that you're in a situation where you're dealing with an original language versus the language that your church actually speaks. So, for example, because I speak English, in my church, maybe my pastor wants to put up the Greek for the New Testament and compare it to the English. That if Greek was the first one, the search would have a problem. So I might want to put the English as the top one, but even then I can move the text box that it puts it in into the second spot, and that solves that problem. So just a little subtle thing to help you when you're trying to do a search and you're just having trouble. So that's one of the subtle things that you should know about ProPresenter. If you like this content, you'd probably like my ProPresenter 7 Quick Start course. So head on over to tdm.fyi/pro-quick. Give me your name and email address, and I'll make a login for you for free. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford from TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.